Yeah, rest on Metro 66 all the way down. These are all the gates on the roof.
Yeah.
Ooh, I grew up on Sunday going to front of Manchester, near your house. I think it's 65. 5:25 in the morning.
Okay, great. We live?
Yes, sir.
Great. Go ahead and call the meeting to order. Get a roll call, please. Attendance. Here.
There. Here. Harness. Here. Nate.
Here.
Scarborough. Here. Lex.
Yep.
Great. Okay. Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of council. I'll make this brief. This evening we do have with us some representatives from VDOT who have been doing a little bit of research for us and looking at the intersection of Washington Street and Jefferson. Basically, we wanted to bring it to the work session, feeling that this is just a working proposal. At this point, there's no really recommendations per se. I'm going to turn it over to Thomas Holt with VDOT. Also with us tonight is Alexander, and I'm going to mess up the last name. Tulishka. Okay. And also Mark Coffee. Sorry, I didn't mess up on it. One of the three.
I'll represent from here. Or you can, if that's okay. Yeah, if you'd like to. Yeah.
Okay. Well, we were asked to look at this at the signal operation at the intersection of Washington Street and Jefferson Street. The most recent, concern that we received had to do with the bike lanes and the fact that when vehicles on Washington Street stop to make a left turn and wait for a break in traffic, that other vehicles may go around by using the bicycle lane. So we looked at a couple ways that the pavement could be reconfigured a little bit and how the signal could operate if that was done. So what we looked at was if the bicycle lane were to be shared with the through lanes just in the vicinity of the intersection. And then a left turn lane would be created in each direction on Jefferson Street to pull those left turning vehicles out of the flow of traffic so that they're not holding up all the through vehicles behind them. And we modeled that on the computer to determine how that would operate. And what I'd like to do first is explain the two different alternatives we looked at. So we have 32 feet from curb to curb, and so what we're looking at is putting an 11-foot through lane on each side adjacent to the curb with a 10-foot turning lane in the middle, and this is in both directions.
How long would that be? I mean, how many could you stack?
Between 100 and 150 feet. It would only hold approximately 4 vehicles, but that's just enough to just get them out of the way because it only takes a few to hold up everyone. And we, based on the turning volumes, we found that most of the traffic is going straight through and it's not turning. So we think that a fairly short turn lane will accommodate those vehicles.
And for growth as well?
Well, we didn't really factor in growth. It's kind of limited as to the space available, and we didn't really look at that.
Okay, I understand.
So, given that configuration of having that center turn lane in there, we looked at two different alternatives. One would keep the existing signal heads the way they are, so that when you want to make a left turn from Washington Street onto Jefferson Street from either direction, you would do it under a permissive phase, which is the green ball. There's no arrow or anything telling you that you have the right of way. You would just pull into the center lane and wait for a break in traffic. So that's alternative one, which we are calling permissive phasing on your handout. We did for the AM peak hour and the PM peak hour. And then the second alternative involves putting the additional heads on the signal mast arm, which would give the arrow for the left turn, so that the left turns could make their turn without without having to wait for a break. Now they would still also be able to make the turn under the green ball phase, but it would start out with a green arrow, and then it would turn to a green ball after a few seconds. And what we did was we modeled it, and we looked at the existing situation and these two alternatives. So we can go into the
Right. So the one that's running
demonstration now.
The one that's running now is the existing PMP, because we figured the PMPs were the most, showed the most volume. Obviously, the AM seemed to work fairly well. So this is the PM peak right now, and it's approximately 4:15 or so. And obviously, as you watch the traffic, certain phases it'll get certain signal phases it'll sort of build up, but then it'll kind of quickly dissipate between other phases. So depending on the time of the hour, it gets a little heavier and then thins out. So we feel like it models the existing volumes fairly well.
Is there any plans for the left turn onto Washington Street from Jefferson Street heading south?
I'm sorry. Well,
The
Coming off of here.
coming off there, turning onto Washington Street, going left. 'Cause that's where we're finding it backs up all the way to Heathcote.
well, Heathcote's coming down from the top.
sorry,
I'm
you're-
sorry, top.
Okay.
Right.
And that backs up all the way
Backs up to the bridge.
backs up to the bridge.
Right.
Yeah.
Backs up to the bridge.
Oh, I've seen it backed up all the way to Heathcote.
So we didn't see that as much. Like, we didn't see that as much as like a normal issue. And does it seem like that's like an everyday occurrence?
I live off of that, so I'm not sitting.
If we sat and we watched this for a while, you would see that happen. But this is just taking a representative sample, and it's an average based on the traffic volumes that we obtained in January, February.
Yeah, January.
So, and what you're going to see here, I just want to point out one thing, if we can see it. You'll notice that the vehicle's heading east toward the right. That vehicle is stopped. He's waiting for a break in traffic. And so he'll either wait for a break or he'll wait for, there you go, see, there are two making the left at the same time. And we did notice that.
It's what we've been trying to do, friendly. You stage it right to the right thing. You both wait, you both acknowledge, and you
Where
but
there's
not
also a
everybody does
problem
it.
coming.
Right.
Everybody does
Right.
it friendly.
Right, then when both are turning, someone's going around
Yeah, and
that
that-
person in that bike
right.
lane, and
That's
that's
where we
Right, and that's something we couldn't really model here, and that's obviously a dangerous thing because somebody thinks that an oncoming left is making the left at the same time, and then another car swings around. That's dangerous.
very.
Absolutely.
All right. So, unless there's any more questions about this one, we'll go on to the
next one.
The next one that we looked at. Okay. So you'll see in this one there is that center left turn lane on each direction on Washington Street. And as you watch, you'll see vehicles pulling into that left lane. And when Washington Street gets the green light, those left turning vehicles will still have to wait for a gap. But at least they're not blocking all the through vehicles behind them.
Right.
And right here we assumed about 150-foot turn lane,
So that holds, what, about 5 or 6?
yeah, up to 6 cars. Is this expanded right away, or just within the existing? Within the existing.
It's not just within the existing road, it's within the existing pavement.
This is all based on restriping the existing pavement that's out there between the curbs.
What? Yeah.
It's for very tight lanes.
So why didn't we do this like 5 years ago?
Well, I mean, it's very tight. It's very tight. It's 32 feet is tight, but we think that one of the things that can mitigate that is the fact that it's posted at 25 miles an hour, and it's just that has more of a calming effect, I think, on the traffic.
So these are both realistic of what we just pictured before, the same
Same
volume?
exact volume, just
So we can see that this works. I mean,
Right.
this is the solution.
It works better. Yeah.
It's not necessarily a solution, but it's an option. Where the turn lanes begin on that model, on that graph, what is that lime green space that you just had your mouse cursor on top of?
This just
Is that just
shows
going
it
to
as
be
a median.
painted?
That's just the way the software works.
Okay, but it's because there wouldn't be a median there.
No,
we would have
It
to
would be a double
transition
yellow
that.
line.
No, we would just have to transition that with pavement marking.
It's just the way the computer shows it.
And how wide are those lanes in this illustration?
The through lanes would be 11 feet wide, and the turn lane would be 10 feet wide, which is really the lower bound of what you would want to do.
Left there.
It's approximately. The lanes are approximately 13 or so feet, 12, 13 feet.
Not including bike lane.
No, just the actual travel lanes.
And there's that little green strip going, say, north on 55, or excuse me, west. Is that just a marking that would be just oversized like that?
No, that wouldn't be there at all. This is just for the software itself.
Same question. Good job.
Yeah, that would just be a double yellow
So
line, actually.
the bike lanes pretty much go away 150 feet
Well, what
away
we
from
would
the
have-
intersection?
I'm sorry. What we'd have to do is we would have to sign it with a special type of sign and pavement marking. And it's, you may have seen it, it's called Bicycles May Use Full Lane. And that is typically used in situations where you have a bicycle facility, but it comes to some constricted area where for some reason or another the bike lane cannot go through. And so by signing it as the bikes may use full lane, it encourages the bicycles to move over to the middle of the lane, and then through that short area, the cars would not be passing the bicycles. But again, the fact that it's posted at 25, we think that it may work in this situation. It would have to be, we'd have to come up with a careful signing and pavement marking plan in order to get that to work well.
Just to go over, I think we already spoke about this, but not officially to you all, but the cycling of the lights wasn't an option by all your models, by just 1, 2, 3, 4.
No, unfortunately, the spacing of the lights are too far apart, so they don't really work in sync with each other. Because once you get beyond a certain distance, they sort of lose that, that connectivity for that. So,
I think what the mayor was referring to is
Before
let one.
I'm sorry.
Go at once.
I think you all came back and said that the models didn't work on that.
Yeah, we've looked at that, but unfortunately, every time you do that, you have to either add time to the cycle or you take away time from other approaches. Since you're adding, essentially, if you do something like that, you're going to be adding like an additional yellow and red time twice.
Right.
So you're going to be taking time away or adding additional time. So it just kind of creates additional backup, unfortunately.
I think if we had heavy left turn volumes that were approaching the same numbers as what we're seeing going through, I think that would be a more appropriate solution for this particular intersection. But the fact that so many more vehicles are going through rather than turning left, it just doesn't work in this situation.
I just think it's one person turning left because of the volume that is going through is what creates that backup.
Right, and then we're just giving them that pocket to get out of the way.
Not on Jefferson.
Well, right, we don't really have the same.
There's not as much room.
Right.
The
Right.
road's just not as wide. So
Understood.
that would actually require some type of construction.
Yeah, this option is purely just pavement marking, eradication, and restriping, and some signage. There's no physical, geometry, geometric improvements at all.
Right. So the problem on Jefferson is still there. They're backing up all the way to the bridge on both sides, to both the railroad track as well as the bridge other way.
This really doesn't help Jefferson very much. The only possible relief that could yield to Jefferson is the fact that if Washington Street can clear, then more green time can be allocated to Jefferson.
I mean, there's been many a days where it's taken me from Heathcote just to get to just over the bridge where I live in the community right there.
Yeah,
It has
I've
taken me
seen it.
20 minutes.
Yeah, just driving the other lane, it's a lot better.
Yeah, I was about to say, I've watched people do that also. They just
I'd rather not
drive
get
out
into it.
oncoming traffic and then cut through Long Street Commons.
So here's the question, who pays for this? And how quickly could a project like this get underway and be completed?
This is a VDOT signal, and we could probably do it by the end of summer.
That's
On
option
whose
two.
end?
What's option, what's the answer to the first question? VDOT signal means it's VDOT money?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Holly, did you have a question or thought or concern?
Well, I just also want to point out one of the drawbacks of this scenario is right now, in 3 of the quadrants, the sidewalk is right next to the curb. And right now, you have a 5-foot bike lane that cars are not driving. For this scenario, you're going to have narrow lanes. And with the narrow lanes, it's going to put the vehicles very close to the sidewalk. And when you have trucks that have mirrors, that might be overhanging the sidewalk. And while we don't, the sidewalk isn't provided for people who avoid it, it is a concern with this. I just want to make sure we realize that the downside as well as the upside.
Right, because of the narrowness.
Because now the vehicles will be riding right on the curb.
And what about semi-tractor trailers or the dualies or anything else that some people have in town with their mirrors clipping other cars?
Well, we've seen that. They've hit the pedestrian signals, the extensions there. Those have been hit and twisted.
Just with what we have.
Yeah, just what. Marshawn?
I guess I wanted to make a couple observations as well. Just understanding we're in an influx right now. We have a new interchange at Linton Hall on Route 29. I think part of our traffic issue is contributed to by that improvement. People don't want to go out to that intersection. They want to come through town. Obviously, Walmart has increased the amount of through traffic that we've seen, but I would expect that once Linton Hall on 29 is done, people may find it faster to get on the 66 to drive down to this intersection and go to Walmart versus having to go through 2 or 3 lights through town. One of the things I observed going back and forth to Leesburg every day is there's a choke point on the bridge at 66. That, in my mind, contributes to some of this cut-through traffic we see on Old Carolina. So I would think that with the expansion of 66 and interchange being done, people will not have to bail out, so to speak, with me, when I go to karate, my kids karate down at Madison Crescent, it's faster for me to go down to Old Carolina and go all the way down to 29 than it is to try to wait to go through the interstate. Other thing we have happening, too, is the Haymarket bypass south of town. Haymarket Elementary is going to build part of that improvement, but eventually they'll connect from 15 to Old Carolina and Somerset. So you're going to have these new east-west, north-south roads that I think will alleviate the traffic and will not have as much cut-through traffic trying to get through town. It'll be more of what people that want to come into town and stay. The other issue we have is with schools. There's some discussion about Haymarket Elementary and how the school boundaries are lined up. Well, those are obviously fluid. It's unfortunate that town is split between 3 different schools: Tyler, Belmont, or Buckland Mills, and Haymarket Elementary. So you're kind of having this funnel of traffic now going down to Old Carolina because of that school boundary. That may or may not change in the future. So I think correct me if I'm wrong, in my limited experience as a planner, it's just we're kind of in that influx. We're in that phasing of getting all these regional improvements. But I would hope in the next 3 to 4 years we'll see a remarkable improvement. Also, when the bridge gets torn down for the 66 expansion and it closes for 6 months, I have to say that we're probably going to see a noticeable change in the traffic behavior because you're not going to have that volume going north-south. I think of Middleburg. Middleburg's got Route 50 going through.
Right.
It's a one-stop light town. I think the reason why that light's more efficient is because their side street, Madison Street, doesn't have as much volume. Here, we got almost the same amount of volumes,
east-west versus north-south, so you have everyone competing for that play. So that's my soapbox, Mr. Mayor. I think pain before gain, and I think we'll get there at some point.
Right.
What about Haymarket Village that's coming right at the corner as well is going to increase, trying to get in and out of there, right across the street, the proposed businesses.
Right, they will not have entrances off of Washington Street. It'll be all
Correct, it'll be all on Jefferson, which is where there is no addressed.
Yeah, Jefferson and Fayette. So, but those will be kind of destination trips. We're not going to see as much folks trying to go through town in my mind.
And Fayette had no impact, or you didn't look at that aspect of people cutting through with that, right?
With our scenario, no.
Yeah.
We didn't really look at any other traffic scenarios other than what volumes we observed.
Okay. All right.
Cut through traffic through town center.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's true too. Yeah. You showed a lot of little cars going around there. Okay.
Did you want just the third one?
No, it's on the second one. She's gonna show you.
Okay, and then we looked at one other scenario, and that's with the left turn arrow. And this would require adding additional signal heads to the existing signal mast arm that's out there. Since all of the signal heads are currently on the single mast arm, we believe that it would not accommodate the additional weight of the additional heads that would be required. So that another signal mast arm would have to be installed. So that would obviously be more expensive. At the street level, it still is the same. It looks exactly the same on the street, though. And if you were to refer to the handout that I gave, we broke this down to AM and PM. The AM is in green, PM is in blue. And so each line for AM and PM, we have existing phase, then we have the permissive phase, which is the one we just looked at, and then the permissive protective phasing, which is the one that's showing right now, and that's with the arrow. And moving over to the the fifth column, we have a letter, which is our level of service. And this is like the grades in school, where an A is best and F is worst. And down at the bottom, you can see that that's all based on the average seconds of delay. So, for example, if there's an average of less than 10 seconds of delay, then it's a level service A. And if it's more than 80 seconds, then it's a level service F. So what we're finding is that the existing phasing is that this is operating at a level service B in the morning and level C in the evening. If you see that. And with the permissive phasing that we just showed you, it would still be the same letters, level service. So it would still be B in the morning and C in the evening. But if you look to the fourth column, the delay actually decreases. So we go from 18.5 seconds of delay to 16.5 in the morning. Not too much of a difference. However, in the evening, it goes from 29 seconds to 20.7 seconds. So that's fairly significant. Then if we go down one line further to look at the protected phasing, you'll see that the delay jumps back up. So, for example, in the morning, the level service drops down to level C, and that's because the delay goes up to 23.5 seconds. And in the PM, the delay goes up to 34.3 seconds. Now, if that was 35, we would call that level service D, which is unacceptable.
Even in the model that you're showing right now, the visual that you're seeing when semi-tractors turning on green and onto Washington Street, they're crossing over those lines. And we're making the left onto Jefferson, cutting over into that right lane. And is that even possible for a semi-truck with this striping and the reduction in the sides of the lanes as a safety issue for semi-trucks to be turning onto Jefferson whatsoever?
That's something to consider. I think they're going to have to cross over the lines, and they're going to have to just take up 2 lanes when they make that turn.
But if somebody's stacked beside it and it's trying to turn, there's nowhere for it to go.
Unless you brought the lines back.
No, even then, I've seen them cross the lines out here just trying to make the turns.
Right.
So it's
now.
There you go, duly.
So it's tight now, and so this would make it even tighter.
It would have hit that car.
What happens in those circumstances, they either drive up on the curb, or if there's a car adjacent to them, they have to sit and wait for that car to move to go. And you're absolutely right, making these turns, where right now they do kind of float into the bike lane, it's going to be harder, and you'll have more instances of this. And you can't model that.
Right.
And it wouldn't be, unless an alternative is moved forward, that people would start looking into that. This is still preliminary.
That's creating more of a safety hazard
But
than
you are
correcting.
absolutely right that, and we're at the stage of kind of pros and cons and
Right.
giving you information, and it hadn't reached that level yet. But you are absolutely right.
That right there kills it. Because safety for me is always going to be number one.
What sort of right-of-way acquisition would have to be done on the third one?
None. It would still have the same physical.
It's possible we may need room right away for the new mast arm.
Just for a new signal pole.
I mean, it says not including right-of-way
Right, so we
acquisition,
just
so I
don't
wasn't
know.
sure,
Yeah.
since we weren't expanding it, what that was.
Are there any places around here that have option B in place somewhere where there are bike lanes that flow into a non-bike lane? You had 16-foot wide lanes, and now all of a sudden you have 12-foot wide lanes somewhere that we can go and take a look at?
I'm sure there are, but I just don't know it off the top of my head. In Arlington? Okay. We can get back to you. We can do a little research.
Is there a way
and find-
to possibly test our option that we had put with going north has green, then west has green, then south has green, then east has green? Particular, any way to test that, put that into place for, say, 30 days and see if that affects, or is that something that's...
That's what, a lot of our citizens, I think even our county supervisor, our board of supervisors mentioned that as well, that can they at least try it, to see. I know that the models say it doesn't work, but, really...
The other negative you run into with that, though, is when you give a protected movement like that, you have to give the heads the proper... You have to adjust the heads, and we would need to have arrows up on the mast arm. So
Correct. So you'd replace the one masthead that's there with one that has both a ball and an arrow.
Yeah. So I mean, we have to do that on all 4 approaches, and that
Correct.
would require us to put a new mast arm up. So that's why it's one of those things that we can't just easily.
You wouldn't have to put a new mast arm if you're replacing just one for one.
But the problem is we're adding a head. Usually you have to have 2 green balls, no matter what.
So if you have one head, red, yellow, a green arrow, and a green ball,
Then
all
you're
on
rolling
one.
a new section. We'd have to add that one head, and I know it doesn't look like much, but adding that one head on all 4 approaches, and again with a mast arm that looks like it's not overloaded, but it's got a lot up there already. We're not sure that would work, and that's why we're not able to easily implement that.
We are required to have at least 2 heads for every approach,
Understood.
in case one of the lights burns out.
I still find that to be our best option, especially with the safety issue of narrowing the lanes and the many trucks that come
we've looked
down
at that in
here.
the past, and it's not that it was a horrible option. I mean, I think delay went up a little bit, but again, the problem was if the cost to install that was the issue. It wasn't something that could easily be done and then reversed. If we're going to do it, then, we're going to spend that $100, $150, $200,000 to redo the intersection signal equipment. And that was the biggest issue we saw. It just wasn't feasible, really, for the slight improvement it may give.
I think it'd be more of a, kind of like a placebo effect that would give the people actually on the road knowing that they can go straight and turn, and they're getting through, whether it's backing up more, delayed more on the other 3 that aren't going, probably won't matter in their mind.
But can that be with the little tape marks or whatever they do to, once the last car goes through, it can then know to cycle, the next cycle and go around. I mean,
It's not the issue with the cycling, it's really the issue of the drivers knowing that they can protectively make a left turn without oncoming cars against them. And we need to have a green arrow up there for that.
Legally, yeah.
You know,
Understood.
along with the 2 green balls. I mean, what's up there now is fine, but we would have to add to it, and that's where we get into that mast arm, the weight issue with the mast arm. And that's the issue that we run into.
Nobody makes a green arrow that says turn left and a green arrow that goes straight in the same bulb.
No.
Brainstorm.
And, okay, it's all about cost, but understand I'm for the town, wouldn't the cost be on you guys?
Right, they're saying they're not spending.
Right.
So what's your problem with the safety issue on option, the first option, the second option they showed us, the first?
The spacing on trucks turning.
Well, then the truck driver, it's incumbent upon the truck driver, in my opinion, to make a safe turn.
I understand that, but then that person's got to sit there and wait until the next light goes for the north-south to go, for him to be able to make that turn, whether it's left or right. They're hitting the cars to the right to him or in front of them when they're turning. Or going up on a curb where we have holes.
What's to say we can't limit north-south traffic for trucks?
Mm-hmm.
Could we, would VDOT allow us to limit truck traffic on north-south? Because I can't think of anything that would necessitate, given all the roads that are around this area, I can't think of anything that would necessitate a truck having to be on Jefferson, North Carolina.
They're not supposed to be on Jefferson.
Within the town.
Right, they're not supposed to.
I know they're not supposed to, but but Oak Carolina, even still, there's a couple businesses right here, but none of them would have a big semi-truck delivering food and such to them.
Nope. And you can just as easily that truck go straight and turn left.
Obviously, they're not going to build a road. They're not going to build a road that's not going to be able to handle vehicle traffic. They're not going to restripe a road and make it so that it's impossible for the vehicles to do a safe left or right-hand turn. But again, then it becomes incumbent upon the driver. And if the driver's doing something dangerous or unsafe, then the driver would be subject to enforcement. I think that the idea of incorporating the turn lane is much better than staying with what we have.
My largest concern is what Holly, I think, pointed out before. It's just that curve, and you're right up on the sidewalk. But go ahead, Holly.
Because one thing is that even if you limit tractor trailers, you're not going to limit school buses. And school buses are elongated vehicles. And until this is just a model that didn't actually take into account the actual turn radius. Like I said, it has to get to that point. I'm not saying it won't work. But if it's tight, then even school buses, which you can't limit, might have issues with turning as well.
And it's the end of the vehicle that turns wider. When you're turning left, that end of that vehicle comes into that other lane to turn.
But I will say, in defense,
I'm not worried about left turn.
the bus drivers and truck drivers are accustomed to that, and they are accustomed to dealing with that.
Sure.
It's not that it's a new situation.
Right, understood.
So what would be the next phase of going ahead with option 2? The one that actually makes some model improvements and stuff like that. What is your next? Your graphics are fun, the video game, cars, etc. That's cool. But what's next? What's phase 2? You go to somebody in Richmond and say we want to do this and get permission, or how does that work?
No, we don't have to go to Richmond. If we decide we want to move forward with it, we can move forward with it.
And when you use the we term, who's we? Is it we, the three of you at the table? Is we all of us up here? Who's we?
Generally, for any kind of signal modification, which is what this would fall into, they generally get approved at my level.
So you just put in a work order and...
We have a contractor at our disposal, and we give them signal modifications on a fairly frequent basis, on a couple of them a month. So this is within the scope of what we would give them, as long as it doesn't involve building anything.
Right.
Then this is restriping and putting up some signs, and so that's a fairly low cost. I think this 10,000, 15,000 is really on the high end. I think it's going to be like a 4-digit project.
Is the end of summer kind of on the high end as well? I mean, is it possible this could go faster and be done?
Well, our contractor is, a couple things. They have a backlog because the winter was long, and also because of the snow situation, we have been asked to hold off on their work until the beginning of the fiscal year, which is in July 1st.
So given the analysis that you folks have done and your expertise on the subject matter, would this be something at your level that you would say you want to do?
If you support it.
I support it.
Because
Is it
well,
only me
if
or all?
council
Because I
supports
support
it, because there are pros and cons, as we've seen in the whole discussion. There's the whole trade-off on the safety. Do you really want to have the large vehicles, well, all vehicles really, right up against the curb, moving? So,
when you say right up against, give me a spatial.
Well, that 10-foot would go literally from the curb.
11 feet.
11 foot would go from the curb right out to the
And it's not the curb apron or the concrete. It's
no, it's
actually
the curb itself. It's next to the curb.
Yeah. So it's almost, you would have
Larger trucks, the side mirrors will overhang the sidewalk.
Right.
Well, hopefully our pedestrians are smart enough to get out of the way of larger trucks and big mirrors.
There are other things that you can consider. I think in our preliminary meetings with VDOT, I think they want to kind of look at this maybe a little bit more from a safety standpoint. We basically were looking at it from, we did get the measurement from curb to curb, it's 32. Exactly. We did double check that. There are ways that we can also, things that we can do from the town standpoint to discourage people walking that close. Typically, you would have like a utility strip or buffer. We don't have that on these intersections, but you could relocate like the trash cans to the edge of curb. Although that could get hit, but I'd rather get that get hit than pedestrians get hit. You could do benches, you could do planters, you could do other things that would discourage the walking area close to the curb. But that would be on us. And I think it would be something from VDOT's perspective, really what they're looking at is this something you want them to explore and consider more, and then I think they can maybe either come back to us with a report or a direction. Would that be a fair comment?
Yes.
So I guess what I'm hearing here is VDOT would like potentially a resolution from us on what we would like to proceed with before they would then go down that road.
I don't think it has to be a resolution. They're just looking for facial on-the-face support there. And are there any other options that we're not considering? Is there space there for a roundabout? Is there potential for flashing red, flashing yellow, alternating times? Is there potential there for a four-way stop? Is there any other potential resolutions that we're not looking at other than incorporating a very narrow set of turn lanes and through traffic lanes? I mean, what other darts do you guys have to throw at it?
Well, I think given the space constraint, this is really the best we could come up with. You talked about the roundabout. That would require
More space.
More space.
Right.
The flashing signal with the yellow and the red, I think it would help one of the directions greatly, but I think it would really create worse delays on the other direction.
Because of the volume.
Because of the volumes.
Right.
Four-way stop, it would just be...
That would be a step backwards.
That would be a step backwards,
Sure.
yeah.
But again, I'm just,
Right.
the whole idea, I think, of this meeting tonight is a lot of brainstorming. So
Right.
if you throw everything at it and figure out why we didn't consider it, that way 5 months from now when someone says, why'd y'all do this? Why didn't you consider that? We'll be like, well, because they said we couldn't do this. Why didn't the traffic work? So, I mean, I personally think that I'd like to see you guys come back with a little bit more of a definitive answer and a definitive study, whether it be, like Holly was saying, a model versus actually measuring dimensions and turn radiuses, et cetera, and make sure that it's actually doable. I personally don't have a problem with wide right turns or wide left turns or mirrors overhanging a sidewalk. I mean, our sidewalks are fairly wide out there, and right at the intersections, there are some planters on some of the corners.
Is that something you do at the next stage? Would you do all the...
Yes. We would look at the turning radius, and I can tell you right now that it's not going to meet the minimum turning radius for a large truck. But it probably doesn't now anyway. But if the percentage of trucks is low enough that it then becomes less of a factor. If this was a heavy truck route, then that would be one of the top concerns. But the fact that there's not that many trucks that are turning at this intersection, it's not as critical. And the drivers of the larger vehicles are professionals. They know how to move over and take up 2 lanes at times when they have to in order to get their truck through.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was alluding to, is the fact that you can't end this idea based on the fact that one semi-truck might clip a car in an intersection. Because that happens everywhere, randomly, periodically, and it's an accident, and accidents happen. You're not going to be able to design this in any way, shape, or form to eliminate the possibility of an accident happening.
Right, I'm just worried.
You got DOT approved and licensed CDL drivers driving these vehicles. You got people that are approved to operate the school buses, etc. As Holly said. So I think that if we're going to do anything to try to alleviate the problems that we're having, I think that we look to the expert panel's advice. They're saying this is the most common sense approach for us to try to take. Heaven forbid it doesn't work. They come back 6 months from now and restripe it, or a year from now and restripe it the way they used to be. But I think that this is a step in the right direction towards a resolution. And then given what Marchant was talking about with the proposed road improvements and construction around here and the Haymarket bypass, I honestly think you're going to see some traffic reductions once those road constructions and everything are completed. So, at this point, I don't think we need to pass any kind of formal resolution, just a straw poll.
Yeah, why don't we just go around the table?
I would say give them our blessing to do what they do. I mean, that's their job.
Really?
I concur.
So, with the only one really solution is the number 2.
The number 2, the permissive phasing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Rebecca?
Well, the number 2, just because it's the best of all our options, I just kind of hate the fact that to, eliminate people using the bike lane as a turn lane, we have to eliminate the bike lane.
We're not eliminating the bike lane.
Well, the shared thing, the bike lane itself, and then the signs go up, but
It's not a
still.
bike lane now. I mean, we've already been told by our prosecuting attorney and our standard everyday representative attorney that it's not a bike lane all the time, every time anyway. So people go in that lane all the time anyway now. And mirrors hang over, et cetera, et cetera.
Steve?
Yes.
Okay. I think, number 2, we'd like for you to see what else we can do and proceed. Okay. Yeah. That's great.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you for coming. And I like the fact that there's no property being taken either. Yeah. I'm not issues with that. Yeah.
Okay. Why don't we take a 5-minute recess for a second and come back at 8.
Jumping the gun today, David. You in a hurry? I don't think it is burger night at Bar Louie. Is that what you're trying to get to?
No.
All right. I know you're a Bar Louie fanatic. So.
I've never been there. Is that any good?
David likes it.
It's loud. And it's loud. Loud and expensive.
It's not that BJ's.
I would.
It's very good, but it's very packed all the time.
It's good, but yeah, packed all the time.
I haven't been to any of those things over there.
Well, it's a pain to get there.
Yeah, I'll wait for the bridge. I mean, another year and a half.
You can walk, you might get there faster.
Oh, Mel's here, I can go.
Were you worried that if you left and Mill wasn't here, our age dynamic would go down?
Absolutely. We gotta have the old fart contingent.
Jen, you ready? Bye. Okay, great. We'll go ahead and call the meeting back to order. And we're down to the list here, our minutes.
Stop tweeting.
I'm good with all with D because I wasn't here.
Would, send any concerns to Jennifer?
So if A through C could be one motion, it would be a separate, because I have to abstain from D.
No, remember they told us we don't have to abstain from minutes even if we're not here.
Okay. Fabulous. Never mind. Disregard.
Our public hearings, number 4.
Just to let you all know, Mr. Vanderpool and I spoke this afternoon regarding a couple of items that are really of order in the minutes for March 11th. Just so you all know, there's just
Some changes?
more in the confusing part. Recessing, there was a motion to adjourn that was denied. And it's just an order, but I'll have those for you in your final packet.
Okay.
So the substance isn't changing, just the order of things, potentially?
Yeah, I believe there's one wrong vote. You have the mayor voting no on closed session, that's...
Yeah, that was the one I said that I didn't think so. And Ms. Spear said, oh, no, you do.
Which one?
Yeah, that's all right. We're all good.
We'll get it fixed.
Yeah, right. Yeah, that was me.
Yeah.
It's just that you guys are next to each other, I'm sure.
Figuring it out.
Public hearings, St. Paul School.
So, Brian, on that public hearing, hopefully they're going to bring to council what was asked for them as far as a plan for phasing out of the trailers. That was asked of them to provide. Hopefully it'll be here before Monday.
I would assume so. I've been working on this one.
Well, they have not submitted that information. We'll remind them again that as your request. Hopefully we'll have it. When's the final packet go out? Thursday morning. We'll ask that it be made available. It took a little while just to get the application in the door. So we will work with them to get that information for you. And if they don't provide it, we'll make sure they're here that night to relay that information to you. We put in the item that we would recommend you send to the Planning Commission. You hold a joint hearing, but send it to the Commission and have them develop conditions of approval, development conditions of approval. I know there was some discussion by the council last month about limiting it to a yearly renewal rather than allowing it to renew automatically. So we'll work through the commission and see what sort of development standards they want to have on that. Once that's done, they'll bring it back to you in May for your final decision. So that's the recommended action in the item.
Okay. And we have the historic district overlay revisions.
Yes, sir. I'll have in your final packet the final ordinance if you wish to adopt the revised district in the official ordinance format that you need to adopt that. But it would be for the boundary that's recommended by the Architectural Review Board.
Versus the one we agreed,
The one we agreed was the one that the Architectural Review Board.
which is,
We had
has it
those
more
three.
inclusive. The planning commission was more restrictive.
Correct.
So that's all. Thank you.
Okay. Brings us down to our agenda items and skipping over to Bull Middle School. Request.
I haven't spoken to anyone, this was just dropped at the door as a request to council. And I didn't receive it. And so I'm just putting it forward for it.
Is it possible, Brian, to try to get in touch with them and find out the census of their team as far as the sentence that says our team members and families are residents of Haymarket? Find out quality, distribution of the team, et cetera. we're just looking for some support. Actually, it says as our team sponsor, but their brochure has many different levels of sponsorship.
I will for sure follow up and find out if you're looking for the makeup of the teams with regards to the actual market presence.
I will say that my son was on this team in Bull Run Middle School several years ago and did go to world competition in California, and that was a very educational thing for him. He's, in fact, still in robotics in high school now. Again, I don't know anything more about this particular request, but just in general, it's a very positive thing for kids. Okay. Any thoughts on that? We're going to parking study analysis proposal.
Mr. Chairman, so, Mr. Mayor, switching between Loudon and Haymarket. We received 4 responses to the RFPs. In the range in terms of cost, 2 of them are below the $15,000 cap that the council had recommended. The other 2 range as high as $60,000. So what we're recommending in the packet is that they send these proposals to the Planning Commission, have them create a work group, evaluates those that best meet the criteria of the RFP, and return back to you for a final recommendation, and just have the council decide whether or not they wish to allocate funds to go ahead and execute that contract, or offer a contract to a party. So we'll bring that to you next.
Questions about that exhibit the very thing?
Mr. Mayor, essentially, Very Thing has followed Carol's request. They went to the ARB, worked with the ARB and the zoning administrator for approval for additional signage for the business. And basically, what you're requested for is approval to put up the signs as the lane boards.
Because of that, you may want to look at changing the title on your agenda because it says certificate of appropriateness, and it's really manual approval because site plan certificates are.
Okay. So Jennifer, you caught that? Okay. And did I see the sign actually go up and then come down within a day?
Yes.
Is that true?
It did go up.
Oh, okay. But then came right back down.
Yeah, it wasn't on there.
It did go up.
I would put up to get the picture.
That's what I would guess.
Okay.
It was
Yeah,
superimposed.
okay.
So they put holes in the building again, put it up, and then took it down?
That I couldn't tell you. I'm just guesstimating. I don't know for a fact. I didn't know it even went.
Yes, it did.
Okay.
The application I rejected was inadvertently included with that, so you'll see 2 applications right behind each other. It's the first one in your packet. That's the one that's approved. That's the 1x6 dimension sign. The second one I'd actually disapproved.
Okay. All right.
So on that, I think Kat and I are in the same mindset. Much like the Washington Street Realty, I don't really think this is a good idea to put said sign, especially said sign that's going to be so small. It's not even going to be visible really truly from the intersection. And they've got other signs out there that, to my knowledge, they've got one in front of their building on the little porch thing. I believe they have a sign on our sign placard out in the grass. And if not, they should be getting one. We can walk out there and verify. But I don't like the idea of the money that we put into these buildings for them to have signs affixed to them. Not stating that the signs being affixed to them is creating permanent damage or irreparable damage, but I just don't like the idea. I don't think it's going to keep the look that we were striving for when we finish the buildings.
Kim, Milt, what do you think? Any concerns?
I'm going to go along with all signage, the amount of signage.
So you think it's excessive by
distracts from everything else in the town, I think.
having it on the building?
Pardon?
By having it on the building?
Yes.
Okay. Mary Lou, any thoughts?
What are they allowed?
The sign that they've applied for.
I mean, but more, how many signs are they allowed to have?
We would be allowed to have one more sign on the building.
And this would be that sign.
It could be that, it could be an individual letter sign, which was similar to what they had wanted to do over here, spell out the whole thing.
Right.
Those would be the two sign options. They could do a hanging sign, similar to what Washington Street Realty did above the door. They have a freestanding sign out front. They could put one above the porch as well, or hang one on the side. So they have other options available.
Is there not one that's better? Yeah, I like other options better. Is there not one that can be on two posts on that south-facing side, on two posts in the landscaping and go up?
You can go up as high as 6 feet, yes.
Right. And it not actually damage the building.
And that would actually get you 12 square feet.
Right.
Freestanding sign would be 12 square feet.
And I think that would be a better option for them, and it's not then putting any damage to our building.
Rebecca, thoughts?
I don't want people screwing holes into the side of our nice, pretty new buildings. You know, a freestanding sign as an option would much, much better.
Steve? No comment. Okay. All right.
They do not have a sign on the placard in the grass, so we should probably get them one, Brian. It's good tenants and good landlords.
Yep.
That being said, another thing I just recognized, the very thing has two signs on this side of our building. One is affixed to the building and one appears to be propped up in the window. Could you take a look at that?
The very thing for her?
No, the very thing.
Yes, sir.
Right there in the little window at the corner.
Oh, right here at the corner?
Yep.
Yes, sir. I'll take a look.
There's the one that's on the wall, and then there's a black sign that says the very thing consignments. It appears to be propped up outside against the window. I don't think that's appropriate.
Outside or inside?
Outside.
Okay.
What was the discussion? I'm sorry.
Just that it looks like there was a consensus that the council felt that a sign should not attach to the building.
Right.
And possibly an alternative would be a freestanding, which she could go with a larger sign that would be on the same side of the building, but just come up with maybe a post or something like that.
Why wouldn't she want to put this sign in front of the building?
To attract traffic.
As close to Jefferson Street or Old Carolina as she could.
I think she's got the freestanding right in front of the building, so
Yeah,
she already has that.
And not only that, but any sign on that side of the building is going to be obscured by people who park there.
You can go up as high as 6 feet, and you get a bigger sign going freestanding as well. You can get 12 square feet on freestanding and up 6 feet. You could still then see it.
You would not be able to. My point would be, if it's only 6 feet up in the air and you've got cars parked on both sides, and then you take the scope, she's obviously trying to advertise towards the intersection. And if you have cars parked on both sides there, and you're sitting in your car, in your vehicle, on the road, your line of sight is going to be blocked and obstructed. You're not even going to see a sign like that. I think her best bet would be for us to put her a sign on our sign placard there. I mean, whatever ARB says is allowed, I'm just curious why she's wasting her money.
Okay.
Everything else, we don't want anything attached to the building, is the bottom line.
Okay. Our appointments, building official, Brian?
Yes, there's a memorandum and recommendation included in your packet. Again, Martin got back with me today, actually, changed appropriate set of language changes to the recommendation and the motion. I will have that in your memorandum for the regular council meeting, but essentially what he said from a recommendation standpoint would be I'd recommend that we approve the draft contract with Total Construction Solutions, LLC, TCS for short, who will designate its employee, Mr. Joe Arbo, as interim building official for the town of Haymarket. Suggested motion goes along with that same line with adding that the town, as the town's interim building official to perform the services and responsibilities identified within the contract. You also have with your packet tonight a draft version of that contract, and as Vice Mayor Tobias did point out, we will also have a fee schedule for you. As soon as I get with Doug to finalize that, I will send that out to you all prior, and it will be in your packet for next week as well.
Has Martin reviewed the contract?
Mark, yes, Mayor Full Prosecutor Standing actually drafted that.
Why are we still looking at this as interim? I thought we were in the process of trying to
Ultimately,
make this more permanent, so.
it would be permanent, aside from the fact that our inspector who has the credentials to go ahead and start sitting for his credentials to become a building official. Once he starts that process, he can act as a building official, but since he hasn't become a certified building official according to the USBC, so therefore that's the reason I'm recommending that we go with an interim just from the standpoint of until he becomes a certified building.
Gives them an incentive to finish.
He has essentially a year once he starts the process, but he actually has enough credentials that he basically only has to take one additional class. Two additional.
Okay. So you're going to have Martin redraft the contract or have an addendum to the contract in regards to schedule fees?
I can do that, or I could just submit it.
Well, right, but there's no attachment here. Yes.
We physically as a
We're told one thing and given another, so I'm not really sure what it is.
Budget amendments. Any thoughts on that?
I thought maybe Brian was going to speak, but yeah,
No,
as far as what they're asking for in the staff allocation, I was asking Brian why the letter of the memo says one thing and the numbers don't add up. Asking us to move $4,000 for the installation of the sump pump, but the sump pump estimate's only $2,400. I was just curious what the other $1,542.60 is. And he was saying that it was for possibly more repairs in the future, well, then we need to delineate that and itemize that.
Yeah.
And I just moved the 2457 that we need right now.
Either way is fine. I was planning on adding an addition to that recommendation as well for budget amendment, basically to cover any additional funds. We haven't received our report back from our structural engineer, so we don't need to know additionally what additional repairs may be needed. But with that being said, we know it's going to most likely exceed the additional $1,500. So I figured one process we could move additional funds. We probably are going to have to look at moving additional funds, but we won't be able to tell that until we get the report from the structural engineer. Furthermore, after that process, we would then have to go out for cost estimates.
Well, I would suggest that we should probably move the known cost, because if you move other costs over there for our spending policy, then it could get spent. And we may not agree that certain repairs are our responsibility versus certain repairs may be the tenant's responsibility. That's an item for discussion, as well as the list from the structural engineer and the building engineer have provided to us. So there's not necessarily going to be everything covered by the town. So I would modify this to what you need for what you know you need to spend right now, not what you think you may want to find out later to spend.
Agreed. Fine with that?
Yeah, agreed.
Agreed.
That's fine.
As the liaison to the treasurer's office, that is my recommendation.
When do you expect the structural report to be in?
Should be this week. I thought it was going to be towards the end of last week, but it should be beginning of this week. So most likely we won't be able to do anything until the month of May at the earliest. But my goal is to bring back recommendations once we get that report back.
And Dave Hall's scope of work is just for the structural work that needs to be done. The other stuff that Brian needs to have on the to-do list with, the chimney, sealing the crack in the chimney, the mold issue, those are separate issues out. Dave is only giving us the structural, because there was just such a big difference between the building official and a contractor. So Dave is giving us a scope of work for structural. So.
I'm sorry, Dave giving us a scope of work for structural?
Yes.
Okay, yeah, I wasn't sure. I heard the word structural, but I wasn't sure how many times you had to repeat it. Structural.
Yes.
Okay. Any other? Appropriations. Renee.
This is the fourth quarter appropriations, the amounts left in the budget. And it includes the balance needed over and above the budget to pay off the cruiser loan we took from the general reserves.
What's our expected cost savings by paying this off now, paying off the cruiser loan now versus funding it into next budget year?
I have to look back at that interest rate.
It's like 3% or something like that. So what's the balance?
Well, what was the number that we were not going to have to allocate towards payments next year? That was the whole idea of why this came up after the budget work session.
I think it was about 14,000. And half of it was left in the budget. I'm going to have to look back at my figures.
Any other questions for Renee?
I'd rather just pay it off.
It's just nice to get that paid off and off the books.
Any savings is a good savings.
Mr. Device, you want us to wait on this, or would you like us to continue?
I'm capable of answering my own question. We're good.
All right, good. Capital purchase, Denise.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, Council. After assessing the artifacts, donations, office supplies, and equipment over at the museum, it's been my observation that the museum needs a new computer, as well as archival material to put the artifacts and donations in, because currently a lot of them are in bags and in containers that they should not be in, and we don't want them to deteriorate more than they probably already have, as well as purchasing a digital camera with a memory card to take photos of the exhibits and displays of the museum, as well as documenting the historical buildings in town and landmarks.
Okay.
Have you looked at any donation from historic societies that could donate this equipment for that, or any research been done in grant funding for equipment for that?
No, I have not. I can look into that.
Any other questions for Renee?
Jeff, can you just print a copy of the current year-to-date profit and loss? That's what I'm looking at. Thank you.
Earth Day, will you be open?
Yes, we will be open Earth Day.
Any other questions for Renee? Otherwise, we'll move on.
The money for the museum stuff is out of the 6K profit money, correct?
Correct. That's where the money will be coming from.
It's there if you need it. I know there's historic societies that are more than willing to donate full computers and cameras and stuff for protection of historic stuff. And I'll see if in my batch of contacts I can at least forward you some.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Our department reports. Treasurer's report.
Okay, 7A, this is my treasurer's report through the end of March. And Jay, I did mark that down, those figures under additional appropriations. The payoff amount was $14,000, and we had $7,000 left in the budget. us pay the other half with cash. Looks like we are going to come under budget for the year. We're under a little bit in taxes, mainly because of a timing difference. Everything else looks right on track. And there's still $2 million cash reserves sitting in cash accounts.
Okay. Any other questions for Renee?
Can you back up, David? Back to the museum for Denise. Sure. Denise, can you enlighten us on your planned advertising that you're hoping to do to advertise the railroad exhibit and the reopening of the museum, et cetera, because the budget has quite a bit of money left in it for advertising.
Yes.
And we're dwindling down to the end of the fiscal year. Are we going to spend that, or can we rob from Peter to pay Paul?
Some of it we are going to spend. I've already started a six plan spread with Bull Run Observer. So the first one will be April 18th. We just cut the check yesterday for that, I believe, or Friday for that. So April 18th will be the first. Losing my words here.
What's the cost?
The cost was $183 for that one, but we're going to do 6 between now and June 30th. So we'll have.
Yeah, so this are included in this budget. There's still there's a $3,000 budget, and $365 has been spent, so you got $2,600.
Yes, but the total I believe is going to be around $1,200 for all 6 ads that are going to the Bull Run Observer. And I'm also looking into Haymarket Lifestyle as well.
And then the reason why I'm looking at this is I'm not necessarily saying we shouldn't take the proper money and use that, but we've got. I guess my question is, and maybe it's an offline question, but perhaps maybe there's a way for, and I'm not rolling anybody under the bus because I know this is all brand new to you because we threw you into this role we created for you, et cetera. I think you do a wonderful job. But there's plenty of money already in the museum budget where some of this stuff doesn't necessarily need to come to council because you guys can pilfer from A to pay for B, and you and Brian should be able to work with A to negotiate that and just make amendments to the budget and have us do that real quick. That's something we've talked about at nauseam this time of year, every year that we've been on council. So for the sake of speeding up some of the plans that you want to do, I would suggest reviewing your budget with Brian and with Renee to find where you have gaps and where you have overages and underages, because there's plenty of money here for you to do what you want to do without waiting for us to bless you. Because we are blessed you by putting you in the job.
Well, there's just a couple of other big things that are going on over there right now, too, like the sealing of the old post office doors, doing a display case for the Cornerstone, the time capsule. So there are some, I just don't know where we are
Your budget's about 35, you spent about 20, and there's 91 days left in the year. I think you got the money.
Okay.
Just trying to expedite the process.
Thank you.
Make your life easier. Sorry, didn't mean to go backwards, but I didn't have to remember. Sorry.
Any further comments on the treasurer's report? If not, we'll move to engineers.
I would suggest that as part of the same thing that I just said about the museum, any other department should be having that conversation about Brian and Renee as well in regards to budget overages and shortages and figuring out the best way to fill the gaps or make use of funds as necessary. Roger that, Ryan?
Yep. Holly?
On the enhancement project, I know I sound like a broken record, but due to the inclement weather, progress has been slow. I'm really, if I see any more snow, I was so mad when there was snow this weekend. But I'm hoping that with that over, that we will really be able to move forward. The contractor is saying that they had enough time at the end that they will still be able to complete the project on schedule. There has been no change to the contract end date, and there is a penalty clause in the contract if the work is not completed on time. As a follow-up to the sidewalk discussion that we had last council during construction, it was both cases, there's actually a temporary sidewalk plan and a sidewalk detour plan. In between Madison Street and St. Paul, there is no room for a detour. And there is provisions for a temporary sidewalk in the plans. And that's actually what they're working on right now. Then what happens, the thing about that sidewalk is due to the space limitations, it is only going to be about a foot away from the through lanes. We had the discussion how when you get close, it's a concern. However, that is your existing condition as well. And there's no place else to put it. That we are maxed out on the right-of-way. Then when it comes to in between St. Paul Drive and the end of the project, right now there's a buffer in between the existing sidewalk and the road. And when the lane shifts come in, the lanes will be right next to that sidewalk. So we're changing up what the existing condition is right now. Right now you have a big buffer, and it would go down to that same 1 foot. Since there is a detour available with a very easy cost, it is safer to detour them and the detour than to have them continue. Even though we're not pulling up that sidewalk, we're trying to give them the same thing that they have now, a wide buffer that they don't have to worry about in that area. So part of it, there will be a temporary sidewalk, and part of it, there will be a detour. In addition, next, for the fiber light, during construction, there was discovered to be a fiber light conflict. I don't know if you remember back in 2009, the fiber light company coming in and doing it. We had given them our plans and said, okay, this is what our plans are. They agreed to avoid our stuff. When they were installing some of that cross drainage, they realized, wait a minute, that they didn't put it where they said they would put it. So we have met with Fiberlight, and we showed them, hey, you guys agreed to it. They have agreed to relocate it at their cost. And what they will be doing is doing it through a boring technique where they basically will be they'll start at Madison Street, and they'll use a borer to go under where the proposed sidewalk is going to go, but deep enough down to avoid any conflict, and then come back up. That means they're not open cutting, which means we don't have to close the road, Washington Street. And it also means that our crews can do what they're doing, and it won't cause a conflict with the work that they're doing. So they're doing it at their expense, avoiding our construction crews.
Okay.
Next, I want to move on to the I-66 widening project. I don't know if some of you have been seeing some of the signs posted on the ramps. The I-66 widening project is scheduled to start next week. In the first stage of work, they're going to be widening the I-66 westbound off-ramp. There will be work behind barriers, but there may be daytime lane closures, but there will be no night work and no detours for this off-ramp work. Also during this stage, they're going to begin milling and overlaying and shoulder buildup along the I-66 main line. If I understand, they're doing it in towards the middle of the road, but I would double check that. But I know that shoulder work. They're not doing the lane shifting or anything yet. They will only do that at night because of the volumes on I-66. They'll be placing, in addition to the little construction signs you see now, they'll be placing the variable message boards on the approaches telling people this is going to happen. And they should be sending out a news release. They thought it would be today, but it looks like it might be tomorrow, that we will post to on our website as well. And then I wanted to follow up with what's happening with the rest of the project. The Old Carolina Bridge is scheduled for closure beginning this summer. They gave me an update just today that the expected closure is not going to be 6 months, but they're looking at a year. And I will change my report for the final council. That was at the beginning of the winter. They were saying 6 months. Today they told me they're looking at a year.
Beginning of this summer.
Sometime this summer.
Right. Any idea narrowing that down at all?
This summer. That's as much as they're willing to get it. That's as much as they're willing to get it at this point. What they are going to do is they're going to meet with the town and the county again, and they're also going to hold a Pardon My Dust meeting where what they will do is send out informational placards to affected residents in the area. They will also give us information to see if we want to send it out to people, saying, come see our plans and discuss your concerns with us. So there is going to be more public, because that's going to involve detours and everything like that. So there will be more public outreach before that closure.
That solves your problem.
I was going to say, that's what, that is your traffic that you've done even the 6 months. It is-
I'll shop with it all along.
My problem's going to be with a lot with the drainage, with the bridge not being there and the water that comes behind Longstreet Commons always being an issue, and what's all going to be done.
So they're going to rip out the bridge and then build a new one?
In the same place.
The construction of and around
Place to go to
could.
There's not enough right of way. There's too much on each side. The Catharpin Bridge, while that's outside the town, I wanted to let you know that at one time they were talking about closing one lane and doing it phasing. However, that they have come back, and what they're going to do is build a parallel structure, an offset structure. So the existing bridge will be in use while they build the new one. So that's going to help out with the fact. Yeah, you're looking at
One lane thing is going to be a mess.
the one. So I was told that the existing bridge will be in full use while they're building the new bridge, in which case then they'll switch the traffic over.
And are they doing that at the same time they're doing
Yes,
North
it
Carolina?
will be at the same time. We'll be at the same time.
No pain, no gain.
That's right. But like I said, since they're keeping traffic on the existing bridge, that's not going to... The fact that they're building the parallel bridge, that it will actually have more of a good 66 impact than the...
Yeah.
So I will correct the 6 months to 1 year and the next agenda meeting. Or the next agenda for the final agenda.
Just to revisit the milling and the overlay and the shoulder buildup, you think that's the center shoulder, the median?
I will double check with them, but it's my understanding that what they're planning on doing is doing some shifting into the median, because when they go to build these bridges, they have to do work to the outside. So it wouldn't make any sense to shift the traffic to the outside. It's my understanding they would do it in the middle, but I will double check and put that in here as well, whether it's the median or if it's the outside.
Just I don't know what kind of messages VDOT's going to relay, but maybe we should take the initiative to inform the residents whose homes above I-66 that sleeping with their windows open this summer may not be the best idea. They might want to invest in some earplugs, because that's not going to be as quiet as that. Just a thought to be nice.
The sound wall's coming.
That's a big question we already have.
And I am having fits trying to find out when the sound walls are coming in.
I'm still not going to deafen the sound.
No,
the sound walls are a misnomer.
Light, dust.
I don't know. And that is just something that I cannot get a definitive answer from, because it's a design builder. I will ask again when I follow up with the shoulder as well, asking if they because when I was originally given the 6 months, they were further back in their schedule. So now that maybe they're further along, maybe they have better information for me. So I will follow up and find out and see if they have any additional sound wall information.
Okay.
The VSMP authority, the package is still in Richmond for review. So I'm not bringing any ordinances to this month's meeting. In addition, we just got an update from a bill passed by the governor that changes the draft ordinances. But I will bring them to council for approval next month. We used the template that DEQ was recommending to use. We inserted our name into it, basically. I will also, once we get it finalized, send it to Martin to look at before it comes to you. I'm trying to get their changes and sign off before I start spending the money on our lawyer.
Great. Thank you.
And site plans, just some miscellaneous site plans that are under review or are meeting with the developer.
Cynthia Horton.
Anything else for Holly? All right. Thank you, Holly. To planners. Susan.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. If I can suck up to my coworkers a little bit, I told them this happening. But Jen and Holly have done quite a job getting that streetscape going. It's an amazing amount of moving parts and invoices and things like that. So, I think the council has been wise in this decision to hire this additional staff. It's kind of self-serving for me, hiring the additional staff to be able to facilitate that project. So she doesn't want any credit for it until it's done, in case it goes bad, I guess. But nonetheless, it's quite, especially doing it part-time. So I don't think she gets a lot of thanks for that, probably more complaints than attaboys. So to reduce repetitiveness, my report is not as long. Just wanted to update you that we did get the formal sheets application in. This is for an entire rebuild, tear down the main structure, consolidate the canopies. They've described as doing it in phases where they would either take down the tanks, keep the store open, or do it the opposite, keep the tanks open and rebuild the store. So they've also submitted zoning text amendments requests for pumps, for signage on the pumps, signage on their canopy, and signage on the building. There's also a special use permit for a fuel station.
What's their timeline?
It's kind of a hurry up and wait. They want to say once the plans are approved, they said they'll be constructing probably within 3 to 6 months after the approval. So if we get it through early summer, probably early fall, when we start breaking ground.
Do you have any idea how long it'll take them to complete?
They haven't told me, but I was estimating probably 12 to 14 months. Chick-fil-A, I mentioned to you that Chick-fil-A, we had rejected their application. They've come back in, and we'll begin processing that application. That should come to you early summer as well. Other applications we're still processing is the ice rink. They're looking at modifying some of their plans for their second sheet of ice on the backside. Robinson's Paradise rezoning, we're still waiting back from the applicant's response. McDonald's has kind of gone quiet on me. I haven't heard much from them lately in terms of the dual drive-through lanes behind McDonald's. The new building inspector did meet with the property manager for Winterham. If you haven't had a chance to look at the article in Haymarket Lifestyle, it's a well-done article in the history of Winterham. He did meet with a new property manager to set it up for her on how best to get the house up and running for a commercial tenant. So hopefully we'll start seeing some work on that soon. Did have a follow-up phone call with Haymarket Square. That's the contract purchaser across the street. You may have noticed they switched out one of the real estate signs, and they're starting to show the illustrative of what it's supposed to look like. As you remember, their theme is, if Haymarket hadn't burned after the Civil War, that's kind of the look that they're going for. I did talk to them about the blights, the house on the back. Some roofs falling in. The other house, the Payne Lane house, I always get that wrong. Butler House? Butler House on the corner that they were supposed to incorporate in the plan. The roof blew off of it during the windstorm. So they did. It's kind of an ironic twist. All the other buildings didn't get touched, but that one. So,
the one they want to keep. Really.
That's how it rolls again. Anyway, one of my statement is that the owner's going to do what they call a phase 1 assessment. He wants to know what's out there. Is there asbestos in the buildings? How much oil's in the ground? And they said that they will start working on bringing some of those other buildings down while these plans come forward. Haven't heard much from the firehouse purchaser lately, but I did notice that some of their windows are starting to get broken and the like. And the garage on Jordan Lane haven't seen a lot of movement on that. They got their demolition permit, but it's not clear why they haven't moved forward on that. So the last thing is the John Marshall Commons. This is a rezoning on the east end of town that was proposing a traffic circle. This was going to go from 4 lanes to 2. The traffic circle would be basically where the new doctor's office is, the urgent care office is, down by the Taekwondo studio, Rainbow Station. We had met with the applicant, the mayor and I met with the applicant, and they were going to do a multifamily unit units up against Pace West, and then townhouse units are further east outside of town. I think after meeting with the county district commissioner and also the county supervisor, the applicant's going to go back and revisit those plans and reduce some of the multifamily density. So we've, to date, I don't know when they're going to go to hearing. So I was a little frustrated with the county project manager. They'd gone through a lot of effort to put together that traffic circle study, and there was very little communication with the town on that effort. So we have made it known to them we want to be part of any future discussions on the traffic circle. So that's all I have, Mr. Mayor. Thanks for your time.
Questions for Rashawn? Any comments? Okay.
Good evening.
All right. Museum report. Denise.
Yes, Mr. Mayor. To follow up on the Health and Fitness Expo here in Haymarket on the 12th, the town clerk and myself met with Wendy Atkins and Susan Amez with Carrion Heart and Vascular for a preliminary meeting. In that meeting, we discussed if it would be possible to still have the Health and Fitness Expo in May of this year, and we came to the conclusion, due to time constraints and the fact that we wanted to properly advertise, do a grassroots campaign, getting vendors involved, that it would not be in the best interest to have it in May. So we're currently looking in the month of August of this year, October this year, or May of the next year. I am still waiting to hear back from Zachary, the facility manager at the old Pace West building. He is getting in contact with the county as far as the availability during any of those Saturdays in one of those 3 months. So I have not heard back from him yet.
Okay.
Because they have first usage of the grounds.
All right.
Okay. And you had asked earlier, Mr. Mayor, about being open for Earth Day. The museum will be open for Earth Day. Our grand reopening will be in May 3rd, and our operational hours will be Saturdays and Sundays from 11 to 3. I'm currently working on getting the doors to the old post office resealed, so they will be on exhibit, as well as a display for the time capsule, and the sign has been hung, so it's nicely displayed in the museum right now. And then I'm planning for June the 2014 train exhibit, and that's going to run every weekend starting June 14th through Sunday, June 29th. And it's an exhibit that will explore the history of the railways through the town of Haymarket. And currently we have the Dominion Valley Railroad Club that will be having a model train on display there, as well as people there to explain the history of the railways and their train, model train as well. And also a 6-pipe pneumatic train whistle has been donated by the Harness family to the museum and the caboose. It will be on display in the museum until the caboose is fixed on the interior and open after the...
So could this be a working train whistle?
It is.
Okay, it will be.
It is.
I didn't know. So,
It is.
Yes, okay. Another thought was the town bell is, one of my thoughts were maybe working with robotics or something like that to come up with a project that would allow the town bell to ring without having to do it manually.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll get my train whistle whether there's a quiet zone or not.
All right. Any other questions for Denise?
Good job.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. We have a police report.
Mr. Mayor, Chief did reach out. He was not able to make it for tonight, but he is planning on being here for Monday meeting if there's any questions.
Oh, okay. All right. Everybody had seen Gainesville Times, Haymarket Beat, the 2 articles for one of our officers. Some both the 2 stories there.
Some good job to
positive news.
I saw one about 4 right now.
Yes.
Also, yeah.
Good.
We have some great officers out there, I can tell you.
Event report.
Mr. Mayor, I have met with our event coordinators. They are gearing up for Earth Day. They've submitted a report as per our addendum to the renewal. I will be working with the coordinators, both before and after the events. This is the first event under a new contract extension in Denham. And if, the other thing I would say is if you all have any concerns or comments, then please get in touch with me prior to the week of the event on April 12th. I'll be working with them and also be working with them post each event as well. The parade will only go down to Printing Path this year as opposed to going the full length as it normally does, but mainly so that way we can stay clear of any of the construction. So it'll be a little bit of a smaller event than years past.
Okay. All right. Building report, inspector's report.
Our inspector has, he put it in this format. If there's a different format that you'll prefer, he'd be happy to change it. He really just wanted to give you an update on what he's been working on since he started doing inspections with the town. We've gotten lots of positive so far, I think all positive feedback. And really, I appreciate the way Joe tends to go by this business. I think y'all would be pleased too.
Yeah. Okay. Any questions about that? Town manager's report.
I pretty much covered a lot of the topics in the town manager's report. The only other things to, I guess on a positive note, I am working, I understand we've worked before with this initiative with the National Bike to Work Day, and so I am working with Haymarket bicycle shop owners for us to help sponsor the pit stop. Participants can get a quick checkup on their bikes on the day. There'll be some giveaways done. We've typically helped by sponsoring just some beverages that don't take much and some light snacks. One of the other things we were going to do in kind of reaching out, which actually ties back to even the Earth Day as well, is we were going to have a table up there. It's just a 2-hour window where we're going to be there to kind of talk about how we're trying to make Haymarket a more walkable or bike-friendly town, and some of the plans that are coming along that encourages that, including what's going on with the streetscape. At the same time, we also are going to probably do a booth at Earth Day as well to kind of talk about some of the positive things that are going on here in town with regard to be available to answer any questions about future developments or anything to that effect. Just basically we open during that time to share some positive functions.
Thinking that through, maybe we could have some of the diagrams and displays of the 66 thing.
That's the plan.
Good, super.
Yeah. Other than that, we do have, I guess on a more technical note, I don't have any, I don't have all my estimates as of yet. We have had an issue come up with the PD, with the HVAC upstairs. It's stuck in auxiliary heat, and that's going to be an energy audit on what was going on with that. I'm in the process right now of getting 3 estimates. As soon as I get those, I will be bringing a recommendation and those estimates back to you all to figure out if that's something we want to proceed with or one thing I haven't figured out is I know that's the heat issue. I imagine the other issue is AC and stuff. But luckily, hopefully, we'll have some spring months, so it's not something I think we need to move on immediately.
Okay. Questions? Mr. Tobias? Got a smile on your face for some reason?
Catherine knows why I'm smiling.
Okay. Mr. Kenworthy?
No. We're going to promote a bicycle-friendly and pedestrian-friendly place except for the intersection where you might get hit by a big truck and lose your bike lane.
Right. Yeah. We also are making
75% of the town is pedestrian-friendly.
Yeah, I was going to say, 75%.
No pain, no gain.
So, one of the things I will tell you in going through this exercise, we did look into it from the standpoint of those were enhancement funds, and VDOT is certain will still meet all the criteria that we had with creating the bicycle lanes, because you're still allowing bicycles, you're still putting the accommodation in there, you're just not going to have a dedicated lane. But you're only talking for 30 greater than 300 feet.
350 feet?
350 feet, yeah.
Just
I don't know why that was.
But didn't he say, did I miss the word, that he said that the striping could be done, or there's something other than the signage? But was there something?
If you put in the turn lane, you're going to lose your dedicated bike lane. But you can use signage to acknowledge.
But bikes always have the right of way. What people don't understand is bikes always have the right of way.
They do.
Anyway, and I can ride my bike in the middle of the road and piss off everybody in traffic. And that's your right as a bicyclist in the state of Virginia. So the bike lane is just nice. But, so that little 350 feet
with
straight
with
lane is no big deal.
With the speeds that our roads are anyway, you're not going to be holding up that much traffic anyhow. I mean, if you were like in a...
I don't pedal that fast.
Well, I'm giving you credits. Straight.
Catherine, anything additional now? Good spare?
No, I'm good.
Straight. All right.
Way to go, Steve. You made it through the whole meeting.
I'm surprised. It was much longer than I thought.
All right. Thank you all.
Hit the button, Steve. Oh, I gotta sit back down. I tried to get you before you stood up.